The topic of our research is Ukrainian big data and the problem of databases localization. We aim to recover the main problems of databases and big data localization of any kind, so it could be used in potential solutions with different languages, different situations that people will choose suitable for them, of course. And firstly, let's address the issue. Why do we localize our databases? Why do we translate it into Ukrainian? And there's few reasons for that. Firstly, that we need to meet the local business needs, because some different services and more Ukrainian different services are translating their sites, their database, and their services into Ukrainian. Because previously we had Russian localization, but more and more people are transferring to Ukrainian language. They want to see more Ukrainian language and Ukrainian localization of their preferable services. That's a high, very valuable reason why you should localize your database. Maybe it's not just an internal feature that you don't need to show people, but if it's some kind of data that shows up on your service, then it's a good reason to localize it. And the other reason that we highly support is the Ukrainization tendencies overall in Ukraine, that everything that previously was not translated into Ukrainian, maybe some other languages, but is Ukrainian and made in Ukraine, we arise to translate it into Ukrainian. More and more people speak Ukrainian, start speaking, transfer to Ukrainian. That's why more businesses are trying to translate their internal big data databases to Ukrainian. The other reason for that could be government regulations, because maybe in some regions, or maybe your service needs to translate your specific database, big data that shows up in your service to a special language. For example, in Ukraine, the public services need to show up all the for example, menus and talk to people on the Ukrainian language. And that also may cause you to translate your database to Ukrainian. That's also a reason for that. And the last reason is just when you don't have such important reasons as previously, but overall it's pretty significant for your business or your solution to just simplify the communication between your app and your customer. That's also a reason for that. Here you can see the overall architecture of our research, how we've done it, and the main points of the research was, of course, to find an effective system architecture for the database localization, define the possible system bottlenecks where we can find the problems, on which steps, on which points, and of course to compare the existing tools, how you should use it in your localization, what tools you could use, what tools you could choose. And now you can see on the right we've described a little diagram that shows us how the research was going. It's a basic overall diagram, not in detail. We have our JSON dataset that's gonna load some data into a database. The database is just made to simulate our big data solution. And then we're gonna retrieve the special text from data, filter the data, and get the text from every linked table, or if you have relational database or any full row of the data that is need to be translated. Then we're sending it to a translator. We're not specifying the exact service. We've described a few services. We compared them in our research in detail. You can check it later. And then we retrieve this data, sort it, and save it into a new database or a new row, anything like that. And basically that's very simplified very simplified version of our research architecture. but at the end we're gonna check every point of this step. We're gonna measure the impact on the overall process, the time spent, and so on and so on. And for example, you can see here also a bit of a research which we used to select database for ourselves by different parameters, like Ukrainian language support, database type, performance, stability, and scalability, and so on and so on. But the most important, of course, is the spread and the popularity among the Ukrainian region and Ukrainian business. As an example of results, the statistics that we've covered, that we gathered from our research, you can see here the exact results for the Google Translator, the Google service. We have an average process time, the time for translation, because we wanted to differentiate the problems with the service that can appear for translation, and the overall time spent by the architecture itself for sending a API call, or maybe retrieving a data, sending a data, and so on and so on. And we have a mistakes percentage for a specific service. And also you can see that there's two tables with a short text and the long text, because it can impact the mistakes percentage when you have context, or maybe you don't have a context for the specific word or a specific language. And right here you can see that after all the research, we wanted to make a little chart with the mistakes percentage. That's basically, you can use any of different translators, but that was a pretty interesting chart, because as we saw that the more time it took the translator to translate our raw or our data, the less percentage of mistakes it has. And that's also a very useful chart for you to choose your tool to translate, or a tool to create your solution of translation. So basically that's what kind of results you can check from our research, what kind of tools you can see, what kind of interesting information and useful information for your service, your solution you can take from our research. From now on, you can ask your questions, and hopefully I'll help you with my answers.